Hello and welcome to this episode of Leadership Guest Practices, and I promise you a very thought-provoking one today. We're heading to the new normal and we're going to give more airtime to something that we've not talked about enough. That's what to wear, what's become acceptable, and how that will shift when we move to hybrid working. That's the combination of remote, laptop-based work and working with others back in the office or any other formal setting. But have you ever considered not just how this impacts how you look and how others see you, but your attitude, focus, productivity, performance, and more? My two guests know a thing or two about this area, so let's uncover those truths with Andy Boothman, who is the founder and CEO of Busy as a Bee digital marketing agency and the amazing DressCode Shirts with built-in CashCuff technology. Just wave your wrist and go. I'm also joined by Suzie Rice, who's a style expert, image consultant, and colour psychologist. And both of them are going to take you on an intriguing, enlightening journey to help you look and feel great through your clothes as we head to the new normal. A few things that we'll uncover are terminologies like enclothed cognition, colour psychology, recognising your own needs from your clothes, including comfort and the neurodivergence of materials on skin, personal branding, creating happiness and well-being that comes from within, and clothing for the digital world. Tune in now. Hello and welcome to this episode of Leadership Guest Practices, and this is one I'm really looking forward to. We are talking about the new normal so much these days, but one topic I'm not really getting at, and that's what to wear. I knew what I wore before, I knew what I wore on Zoom, but when we get to the new normal, what is that looking like? And to join me in that discussion are experts Suzie Rice and Andy Boothman. Thank you both for joining me. And I'd like to ask you first, Suzie, to introduce yourself, your business, and your passion about all things style.
Thank you very much. So my name is Suzie Rice and my company is Style Heaven. And I've been working with busy professionals for nearly 13 years. My passion is to take them from wherever they are. I tend to work with people over 40. That's the sort of the sweet spot of people that I attract. And they want to look and feel better than they're currently feeling. And they, at that point, don't believe that I can take them as far as I do. And so my passion is for them to just feel the best they've ever felt and to portray on the outside their inner essence, so who they are on the inside and how that's reflected in their outerwear.
Fantastic. Well, fortunately, because I'm not over 40, I'm not in your target market. He said wishfully. So I'll be listening with open ears today. Suzie, thanks for joining me. And Andy, you were the first ever guest on Leadership Guest Practices. It's a big welcome back to you. And maybe for those that didn't tune in the first time, please introduce yourself, your businesses, including DressCode Shirts, something at the very heart of today's topic.
Yeah, really good to see you again. So I'm Andy Boothman, founder of DressCode Shirts, which, surprise, makes these things. Shirts inspired by tech. And we also integrate tech into the cuffs. We were the very first company in the world to have smart payment technology, contactless payments, that is, within our shirts themselves. And over the last 18 months, we've seen huge changes in the world of fashion and clothing. And one of the things that we've been working really hard on is environment and environment credentials around what we're doing. So we're trying to improve the sustainability of what we're doing. And we've got some really interesting projects that are coming up soon around that.
That sounds very much like purpose-driven tech and integration. And you're right, it's called the CashCuff, right? Am I right?
That's correct, yeah. The CashCuff is the payment one.
Great. Well, look, thank you both for joining us. And Andy, I'm going to stay with you here because I want to get straight into this, really. And I'd like us to start by understanding what's emerged over the last 18 months in terms of when we consider, what we're wearing, how we're feeling, what used to happen back in the workplace and this whole hybrid working and remote working in the pandemic and what's going to happen moving forward and how that might impact people perceptions going forward and so on. So if we could start by saying, how these trends are moving forward, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how we look and feel, and also how you anticipate those might change also as we move to this so-called new normal.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the first thing to point out is that everybody was pretty much thrown in at the deep end on this. You know, no one preempted it. There was a few people that were already doing an element of remote working, don't get me wrong, but no one was doing it to the degree that we have been. And, you know, even when you were doing that, as an existing kind of practitioner of it, you had all that kind of buoyancy and stuff around you of the normal world, the world you knew. And that all disappeared very, very quickly. And suddenly we were watching ourselves on screens in a way that we've never done, or certainly not for the period of time that we have found ourselves doing it. So it was a very, very steep learning curve for lots of people. And, you know, there was a lot going on. There still is a lot going on, but it was very unsettling. And how people showed up through these channels to meetings, well, that kind of changed quite a lot quite quickly as morale ebbed and flowed. You know, people were struggling with the motivation to make the effort to get themselves in the right sort of headspace for work, because they were juggling homeschooling, they were doing, you know, all sorts of things had changed. And I think one of the things that sort of slipped initially was that making the effort about personal appearance, because, you know, you can just switch your camera off and then you just become a voice on these things. And that's acceptable in some circumstances. In other circumstances, it's infuriating. I know how many people get very, very upset, I think is the honest answer, by the number of little silhouettes that they see just appearing on these types of calls. And you miss a lot of the kind of nuances of interaction that you would get face to face, for certain. But yes, it's been massive change. And I think that the clothes that you're wearing and how you feel going into these sorts of things got a huge impact on how productive these channels are, just like as they would be face to face.
Yeah, and you're right to pick up the point about motivation to make the effort, because I guess, you know, it's such a, I know myself is that when you dress, or even in front of the camera like this, it defines how you're going to show up for that, particularly when you've got your camera on, doesn't it?
It does.
And maybe Suzie, if I come to you then now and take this a step further, really, to get into some specifics. What are the main stylistic trends that you've seen emerge, you know, when we're kind of in the world of Teams, Zoom, Meet, wherever you're on online conferences, virtual events, or networking groups? What are you seeing out there?
I think kind of relating to what Andy's just said, that it's been quite interesting watching the flow and the change. And I think to start with, people that weren't used to Zooms. It was quite scary for them. But I think over time, people got a little bit, well, it depends on their personality and their confidence, but people got a little bit more confident with what they were doing. What I was hearing a lot, so I was doing a lot of virtual sessions and virtual shopping sessions in my boutique. And things that people would normally buy pro-COVID, they were saying, oh, well, I don't really have, I'm not going out, I'm not going anywhere, I've got no need to wear it. And what they weren't doing was relating that to, because they've become so much more casual in their Zoom meetings, they just weren't making that cognitive shift between what's acceptable on Zooms. When I say acceptable, because I'm very much from being driven behind how the person feels, acceptable to them. So when they sit in front and they can, I'm obviously looking at you now as a big screen, but I can see myself in the corner. I'm very, very aware of what I look like. And it's, when you think about being in face-to-face, you can't see yourself, can you? You're looking at the person you're talking to, or you're in a conference room. When you're on Zoom, you can actually, it's like sitting in a conference room and having a mirror in front of you. And so it's even more important, I think, because of the signals that gives yourself as to, am I looking okay? Am I being perceived okay? Trend-wise, it probably sounds quite odd for a stylist, but I'm not led by trends. I'm led by the person's personality and how that reflects into their style. So it's more to do with their style than it is to do with trends and fashion. Obviously, we're completely led by fashion because that's what filters down into the shops and that's what we wear. But I would say it's very, very different for men and women. There's a whole nother subject here of how it's affected, the gender break. Because, for instance, if we discuss, the three of us now, how long it took the three of us to get ready for this meeting in terms of our aesthetic, what we looked like, it takes a woman a lot longer. If she's going to do her hair, do her makeup, women have, it's a lovely thing, but we have a lot more choice of what to wear. Men generally, they're going to wear a shirt or a polo shirt. And I think it's much easier for women to express themselves because men tend to, Andy's shirts are amazing. They've got cuffs on. But obviously, in a Zoom, you can't actually see the cuff. And so I think it's just a lot easier for women to express, but also because they've got that choice, it can be very confusing. But trend-wise, I think that the colour has played a big part in it. That and again, it depends on the profession. So if I'm working with somebody who needs to be suited and booted, they tend to go, the suit would tend to be a dark staple colour. It would be grey, chocolate brown, navy blue or black. But on a Zoom, you tend to not need to wear a suit. You can go full out for colour. So, I've gone for pink this morning. And so colour, I would say, would be the thing that people have encompassed and took that forward to show their personality off.
Yeah, it's funny. While you're speaking, I'm smiling to myself saying, having you two on this episode today, I was way more conscious of what I was going to wear. And it's the first time, honestly, where I've actually worn a shirt. It's a short sleeve shirt, but on one of these, it's mainly polos, as you say, and the beauty filter up to max. And that does me, on that. But today I was thinking, I've got this new background. I've got lots of oranges in it. So what's going to go on? It's like, it was an absolute nightmare. But I totally get what you're thinking. You got me also remembering what happened over the last year with certain brands, because I remember Prada came out and they started changing their clothing, the top half particularly, and using this V here for branding purposes and bringing people into that to look good on Zoom or look good in front of the camera. So started to go down that road. But let's get into a little bit more detail here, because there's some snippets of things that you're both saying here that are worth going into a little bit more detail, probably in terms of the why and the what first, and then we'll get into the how. So Andy, coming back to you, you speak passionately at DressCode Shirts and outside of that about enclothed cognition, the hidden superpower of clothing. I would love to hear more about that, because I wasn't familiar with the terminology. I want to get into what that actually means and why it's so important in the era that we are now, but as we move to the new normal of hybrid working, where we're potentially face-to-face and online.
Yeah, thanks. I think the first thing I would say is that I think most of us seem to have forgotten about what the role of clothes actually are, above and beyond just covering your body. We take them for granted, I think, a lot of the time. You just go to the wardrobe, grab the first thing you see, and away you go. There's a heck of a lot going on in terms of the cognitive messages that you get from clothes. And enclothed cognition is a real thing. What you wear will have a direct impact on your outlook, your productivity, all kinds of different aspects of your day can be enhanced by what you're choosing to wear. Equally, if you don't kind of give it the attention it deserves, it will make what seems like a pretty average day feel worse and stuff like that. It's been proven many, many times by various different scientific experiments, but it's a known fact that when you put clothes on, clothes are speaking to you, as in the internal you, but also to the environment around you. And I think those messages that are going inwards are have probably never been more important than what we are now in the hybrid and virtual working place, where having that self lift and those connections to kind of lift you through the day and drive you forward, I think is really, really important. And if you're just sitting in the same sort of clothes throughout the day doing everything, well, your brain's not getting any messages. There's no stimulation there that suddenly, hey, Jeremy, you've got to do this presentation. You wouldn't have ordinarily just sat there and worn your T-shirt and joggers that you'd been wearing all day to go and do your presentation. You would be like, right, presentation coming up, change of clothes, which is sending signals inwards like, right, game face on, away we go. And, when you're not doing that, or when you're kind of doing what has been happening, this 50-50 thing of just thinking about the bit that you're going to see. So we've had lots of stories of people either wearing very little on the bottom half or shorts when it's hot and things like that. Again, it's kind of mixing those messages. So your kind of focus isn't as sharp as it would have been. The classic example that's often used for enclothed cognition is the white coat that we associate with surgeons and things like that. And there's a number of experiments where two groups of people given the exact same item of clothing, two separate rooms. One group are told that you are surgeons and you're going to perform some surgery. The other group are told you're artists. And they're given the same task, the exact same task to do, but in those different mindsets because of that garment and what it means to them and the associations. And their activities are measured. The surgeons are very precise and calculated in what they do. People who are told they're artists are much more expressive and free in terms of what they do. And, that's a wonderful example of it. And I think it is something that we've all kind of forgotten or just started to take too much for granted, I think. And this new environment that we're sitting in, it's really important for people's mental health and well-being to just take that moment in a morning, or even better, the night before, think about what you're doing that following day and what are the things that you could do with your clothes to kind of change up the gears or even change down the gears, because that's equally important at the other end of the day when you've been doing this all day and you need that wind down. Changing out of the clothes and going with something else will help you achieve that.
This is really amazing stuff, and like so many things, it starts with mindset, and but going into my mental health, my well-being, how I feel, really does start to define how I show up, and in those different situations. I think situational dressing is a really interesting concept, particularly if we are still going to be online largely, but then off to an event or off to do something else. It's a different thought process, and maybe more so I can relate to that now because I don't generally stand in front of the camera when I do this. I've stayed seated, but I know that some people do. I have taken care of my top half, but not so much of my my bottom half. I'm giving too much away. However, that's where it is. However, it does resonate with what you say around mindset and about what different sorts of meetings I've got or recording some of these. It always reminds me of the Silicon Valley approach, the t-shirts and jeans approach to this, and how that is becoming also synonymous with some level of expertise or new ways of working. Just before I come to Suzie on that, do you have a view on that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, all of these things, we're talking about uniforms here. So that what you've described as the Silicon Valley approach, that's a uniform, the t-shirt and jeans. And, there was a time when that was novel and it stood out. I think that time's come and gone, if I'm being honest. And it doesn't matter what role you're doing, where you might be in life. We've all got various different uniforms that we're putting on throughout the day, throughout the week, whether it's your parenting uniform, your business uniform, whatever that might happen to be. The things, it could be as subtle as a change of socks, even. Your favourite socks, that might be the thing that you're going to go to when you've got to do that really important presentation. No one's ever going to see them other than you. This is a good reason that we have all spent a lot of money on expensive underwear. It's sending messages inwards to you. It's not the stuff that many other people are going to see. I think it's a great example that you've given of enclothed cognition, but I think in terms of its ability, it's quite limited. I guess some people will aspire to that, of course, and that's all good for them if that's what they want to be and the particular channel they want to take. But I think in the world that we have with so many different textures, materials, t-shirts and jeans, it's a little bit limited.
Yeah, I get that. And there's one big element that we've not come to yet, which brings all of this alive, which is around colour. And I know, Suzie, you're very passionate about this. And there's no doubt that we will continue to have all of these multiple situations where we're required to show up in life, at work, wherever that is. Andy talks about enclothed cognition. I'm sure a part of that is colour, and something close to your heart is colour psychology. So could you also explain what that is for us, please, its importance, and how actually that helps us when we're showing up, either remotely or indeed face-to-face?
Absolutely. I mean, colour is just, the power of colour is phenomenal. We see colour first. So regardless of what somebody's wearing, what shape, we always see the colour first. And the psychology of colour is, when we've got ourselves dressed, when we've put, relating to your uniform analogy, Andy, which is a brilliant way, I think, for people to get their heads around, all the different hats they wear, the different roles in life that they have, and having their uniform for that. And the thing is that a lot of people don't know what their uniforms are. This is why they come to me to start with, because they have over time lost the confidence in their own choice, in their own likes and dislikes. They're not aware of this. They just got lost and they don't know what to choose. And colour is a massive part of when I'm doing colour analysis with someone. It's based on their eye colour, their hair colour, currently, not whether they've dyed it, so whatever it is at that time, and the undertone of their skin. And these three things depict, when colour is close to the face, whether it's a positive, whether it lights them up, it reflects a natural light onto them, it makes them look younger, more youthful, more vibrant, more healthy, or whether it's having a negative effect, which is to cast shadows, to emphasize lines, dark circles, and to just make them feel very low. And unless you've ever experienced colour analysis, of course, we're not really aware of it. But when we learn colour at school, it's usually in art. And if we don't take art on as a subject, we don't get any further. And over the years, working with hundreds and hundreds of people, most people don't even know what the three primary colours are. And when you take that forward, so for instance, colour psychology, so when you get dressed in the morning, you look in the mirror, it's the effect of what that outfit does for you, what that uniform does for you, and colour is the biggest player in that. So for instance, if quite often I'll be working with somebody and they, through their teens, their 20s, 30s, 40s, they've always looked amazing in autumnal, rich browns, tans, lime greens. They may well have brown eyes. And as they have started to cross over on the grey side, to come through, they might be salt and pepper grey. They've got no idea, but they're getting dressed in the morning and they look in the mirror and they just feel like everything about them just feels wrong. They feel old, they feel tired, they feel like a has-been. These are words that I'm told, these are not labels that I'm giving. And they just feel, and it completely impacts on their day, every day. And the wonderful thing is to show them that they've crossed over from a warm through to a cool, so that cool colours will instantly make them feel 10 years younger, healthy, vibrant, and it just gives them a new lease of life. And so the psychology of colour is basically what you wear close to your face and the effects that it has on you. And importantly, in the business world, the effects that it has, the perception of others. And if you've got both sides here, where you've got, if somebody's wearing colours that are amazing on them and it helps to give them that positive confidence, that's going to radiate out. And so that's going to affect the person they're with, but also the visual of the opposing person and how they view you. And there are, obviously for branding, etc., colours are a massive thing. People, there's a whole split here, isn't there, as to whether, so for instance, when I started my business, my branding colours are grey, white and different pinks and purples, because that's congruent with me and who I am. But of course, it needs to be matched to what the business is and who you're trying to market and who your target audience is, for instance. And colour, so reds, for instance, if you wanted to create the feeling inside and outwards that you are assertive and confident, then you would go for reds. If you wanted to give the impression of trustworthiness, that you're organised, reliable, that would be blues. Yellow is cheerful, innovative, active. Green, of course, it won't be any surprise because it's why we're at one with nature, because it's repeated patterns, it's calming, nurturing, dependable. If you were going for a job and you want it to be fun, then orange is a great one for that. It's enthusiastic. Pink, feminine, gentle. I could go on and on. And so the colours, what they do is they get you into a positive mindset if they are positive colours for you, and then how that is expressed outwards and how that's comes back from the person that you're in a meeting with, or that you're meeting up with.
I have never been more conscious about what I'm wearing. Listening to that, I think I'm kind of cold sweating here, thinking, uh-oh. But I do recognise that point about the opening the wardrobe, and as I have definitely got whiter here, where I've got on my head and less of it as well. And right, some of those things that I used to wear just don't quite look right, but I'm not getting to. I'm now thinking it might be colour. I might need to come to you for a little bit more advice after that. But it's fascinating. I mean, I'd heard of the power of love, but the power of colour is clearly there, right? Absolutely. And interesting that we don't really think about, well, we're not aware of it, should I say. We don't really think about, our eyes, our hair, our skin tones, and how that type of colour analysis goes with certain things. And you must have seen, just a quick one, you must have seen some bold transformations in your time. What have you worked with somebody who's really just suddenly blossomed when you've worked with them? And do you have any example?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone I ever worked with. It's the uniform, when people lose their confidence in their own ability to choose. So they basically have a wardrobe of, I don't wear any of it. I don't wear 90% of it. And of course, they don't even realise that. And when we do the statistics, they're quite shocked. So about 6 years ago, I did some research into to my client base at the time. And they, on average, they had £4,500 worth of clothes hanging in the wardrobe they never, ever wore, ever. And the uniform, when they come to me, is they tend to wear a lot of black. There's nothing wrong with black. So I'm not the black police. So for somebody like me, for instance, who's very, very fair, I've got very fair skin, I've got aqua see-through eyes and blonde hair, so I'm very, very fair. So put black on me, I age 10 years, I look horrendous. The thing with clothing and black is that people have a belief that it makes them look slimmer, and also they hide in it because colour obviously puts you, stands out in the crowd, because we've got this black uniform. Probably, I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, it was much easier to buy dark staples for people that weren't black if black wasn't a great colour on them. So there was a lot more navy blue and a lot more charcoal grey available in the shops. That's one of the reasons I started my boutique, because I couldn't always get what I wanted. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna source clothing myself. But it's a shame I can't show you visuals. But so I always take before and after pictures. And at the end of a client's journey, they have a photographic shoot so that I can show them all the different outfits. They can dress this up, dress this down, and all the combinations that they can make. And then we have a collage, and then they see their before and all of the collage. But it's the impact is just, I mean, it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's such a huge impact. And they come to me, they think for styling, but actually it's the confidence that they're really looking for. Subconsciously, it's the confidence. And what I teach them is I train them how to identify their own colouring, their own self, their own style, personality, their own body shape. And by the time they finish with me, ultimately, I'm getting them a new wardrobe when they work with me, but taking that forward, they then know exactly what they're looking for and exactly what their backbone, what their style personality is. And the transformation is huge, and it gets me so excited. It doesn't feel like work. It's amazing. I love it.
Well, I could really talk about this with both of you all day about getting into this deeper, but in the spirit of this episode, let's get to some practical how-to around this as well. And coming back to you, Andy, around this. So for those interested to know more particularly, how do we recognize our own needs, if you like, from our own clothes, taking into account all of those things that you mentioned about well-being, mental health, and as Suzie just mentioned there about that confidence element. Mm-hmm. And as you picked up right at the end of the last piece, you were talking about the neurodivergence of materials on the skin, how it feels, all of those kind of things, how it impacts our personal brand, perhaps. All of those things around creating confidence, happiness, and so on. What are some of the things that we can do, and how do people do it?
Okay, I think one of the things that we need to sort of be is truthful to ourselves. It's something that, Suzie's work always is about bringing out the true person that's hiding behind all these other things that they've put in front of them. So recognize the things that you like and don't like, and work with that to just be truthful. And it's just simple things, really, like keep a diary of the things you've worn and how you felt. Equally, we tend to have lots and lots of images of ourselves these days, whether we like it or not. People will do a screen grab of these types of things, or there'll be a picture taken. Just have a look back through at some of those pictures that you're in, and think back, was that something you were enjoying? If it was, if it was a great event, great occasion, what was it about the clothes that you were wearing that helped make that so fantastic? And look at how you might replicate that. And do some really simple little experiments. Find that core range of clothes that make you feel fantastic, or that you've got fantastic memories associated with. What else have you got that feels very similar? And when I say feels, that could be literally in terms of how it feels against your skin, but it could also be the colours and the cuts and all sorts of different aspects about it. And start to define that wardrobe, because I think that's the biggest issue, is that you tend to collect clothes over a prolonged period, and there's go-to pieces, but why are they go-to pieces, and why are you not choosing the one next to it? And just simply keeping a very informal diary, keeping a check, using the visual references that are around you. If you're really unsure and you want some help, go and speak to someone. It'll make a world of difference and take a lot of the stress out of it. For certain, that's going to be a huge advantage. But yeah, find the things that you like that are going to help set that mindset in the positive direction that we all want it to be.
Yeah, and as you said, I think Suzie is one of those people that we might go to, right, for advice around this. So I'm going to come right to you. Not all of us, unfortunately, have access to a style guru like yourself, Suzie, although I'm just really fascinated by it. And I think many, many years ago, I had a dabble into this and got my colours. I was autumnal at the time, and I'm clearly not now because I'm not as comfortable as you said. It's I'm ever so conscious right now. And I think that's the first step, isn't it? So for those of us that can make some quick changes or can do things differently, what are some steps as related to even color or some of the clothes that we wear or styles that we wear that will make a difference to us, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face in business, but particularly that gives us that confidence that you were talking about and drives that sort of positive impression to others as well?
So something that I devised several years ago was when I first worked with people, what they wanted to do was for me to sort their wardrobe out. But the horror for them was they'd always say, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I don't want you to come and look at my wardrobe," because we have this emotional guilt about the money we've spent, the time we've spent, of all of those clothes that are hanging in the wardrobe we don't wear. And also for me, because of the way that I work, it's about the person's personality and not mine. So I can look at somebody and yes, I could go and get them some outfits and they could look wonderful. They could look in the mirror and they could say, yeah, I can see that it looks good, but I just don't feel like me because I haven't worked with them. I don't know what their personality is. And so I came up with something called the wardrobe shuffle. And if I said to you two, right, now what I'd like you to do is go and spend a few hours in your wardrobe, you'd just want to pull your fingernails out, wouldn't you? And of course, who's got time to do that? So I came up with something that is fast and it's a document. I can release it to you, Jeremy, if you want to make it available. And it's basically completely sorting your wardrobe out and finding out the things you need to find out in 20 minutes. So the document comes through and you basically just follow the steps. It's really good to get yourself in a really good positive mindset mood, put some music on you love, whether that's jazz or whatever you're into, and read through the document. And it's all about speed. And I don't want to ruin what it is, but basically you just follow 3 steps and you go with your gut instinct and you're basically removing everything from your wardrobe you don't wear, whether it's too big, too small, it's not current. My auntie bought me it and I've got an emotional attachment to it, but I can't stand it. Just when you're looking at your wardrobe and you go, no, yes, that will do. It's all of those no's. You're basically working from left to right and it's really quick. The reason that it works by gut instinct is because the person knows up front that they're not getting rid of anything, because that's what worries people. So it's just going to be taken out of the wardrobe and put into a pile. You basically end up with 3 piles. You end up with, I don't wear, it's okay, it'll do, it doesn't light me up, but I don't feel bad in it, it's okay. And then what you're left with in your wardrobe is, I love. And then at the end, you count how many items are in each pile. And then you look at all of the things in the I love pile. This is basically what Andy's just said, but in real detail. Have a look at the colours. Have a look at the patterns. Have a look at the fabric. Our skin, people don't realise often, is that our skin is our largest organ and it's how it makes us feel. Have a look at what's in common there. And that basically is then your shopping list for your future purchases. As equally important is the pile of I don't wear, and you will be amazed at the things that you've got in common. So, for instance, when I first did this years ago, there was a lot of things that were satin, that were shiny. I liked them, but when I put them on, they didn't work for me. And now I realise why. Anything that was too girly, I didn't like. And so you write all of these things down and you try and be as specific as you can. And then you end up not buying any of that again. You go for the stuff that you love and you end up with this amazing wardrobe because you're trusting your own instinct. And what Andy said about being honest, totally agree with that. But the trust thing, trusting yourself is about, so from about the age of 5, you can send an average 5-year-old into a department store and say, go and choose clothing. Now, if you just picture a 5-year-old, they're going to run off and they're going to pick that, and it will be their natural instinct. So they will naturally look good and feel good in those colours. They will naturally love the pattern or no pattern or whatever it is about that clothing. Because at the age of 5, generally, we haven't been trodden on, damaged, commented, criticised by siblings, parents, teachers. And that's what you're doing with the wardrobe shuffle without realising, is you're just going with your gut instinct. And we collect along the way. So, for instance, my things used to be my thumbs. I would never wear nail varnish because I've got very short, stubby thumbs. And so people had always mentioned those. My sister always used to take the mickey out of my bottom, so I'd never wear anything that showed my bottom off. And we all have these restrictive things. And so it's just diminishing those and going with gut instinct. It's not about what I've been told I should wear or shouldn't wear. I'm just going with what I love and switching into that. And then you end up with this amazing little shopping list at the end to go forward.
Well, just sounds amazing. And absolutely, if you can send me that document, we'll add it to the post that goes out with this so people can take a look and do it. I'm definitely going to do that exercise, I have to say. The
photographs.
No. Steady. One step at a time now. It's baby steps. I'm already worried. I've heard so much today, that so many words, so many concepts that I don't use very often, particularly around keeping a diary, like you talked about, Andy, the emotional guilt that we might have sometimes, that you said, Suzie, the power of colour psychology, enclothed cognition. Really interesting that so much of it is around mindset and psychology, feeling, confidence, all of those things that are core human traits. And you start to realize how important what we wear is to that, and what it looks like, how comfortable we are, what colors we're wearing and how they suit us, all of those kind of things. So there's quite a lot there. So staying with you on this, Suzie, what would be your parting words, just a few key messages for everybody listening or watching that'll accelerate their journey in this area?
I think mainly comparison is the mother of don't compare yourself to other people. I was really shocked when I first started doing this, that I worked with the most successful, if I saw them in the street, I'd think they've got it all going on. They've got it perfect. And they'd come to me and they'd sit on my couch and they would tell me all exactly the same insecurities, the same things about themselves, their age, their weight. They've got no clue what to wear. They've got imposter syndrome. They feel like they're just winging it at work. And so just be kind to yourself. Just remember that, or realize that we are actually all feel like this at times. And, if you're in a place where you actually, the reason I do this job is because just after I had my son, I went into I felt terrible about myself to the point where I went to see a coach. She sent me off to a retreat, which then led me off to the London College of Fashion to train in this. And the reason that I turned it into a business is because I didn't want anyone else to ever feel the way I felt about myself, and that I was a failure and all of these things. So just be kind to yourself, treat yourself with some kindness. And if you feel that you want to go and have a look at colour analysis, then, treat yourself. It's an investment. It saves you money in the end. It obviously doesn't have to be with me. There's lots of brilliant stylists around the country. But also to just sit, close your eyes and think back to a time. Was there ever a time that you felt really good? What were you doing? What was the circumstance? And what were you wearing? What did that look like? What did it feel like? What was the colour of it? And just reconnect to who you are and what you like. And don't try pleasing anybody but yourself. That's my biggest message.
Yeah, be kind to yourself. That's absolutely right. And I so much of that makes sense. And of course, coming back to a point that we started with and bringing you into this, Andy, is that you started to do other things with clothing, which is around integrating technology. Your shirts not only look amazing stylistically, but they have tech inside. We talk about wearables, all of these kind of things at the moment. So perhaps while we're being kind to ourselves and figuring out what's best for ourselves, what's on the horizon in terms of technology integration that we might need to think about over the next 5 years from what you're seeing in the market and potentially what you're innovating?
Yeah, no, I think at the moment, what we call a wearable, I think, is quite laughable, really, in terms of its description, because they're not really integrated pieces as such. They tend to be things that we're sticking onto various bits of our body. For me, in the way I see this all working, I think that what Suzie said was spot on in terms of being kind to yourself. But I think our clothes are going to evolve quite a lot in terms of the functionality that they're going to be able to deliver for us. And particularly in the kind of mental health space and well-being, everything from posture to body temperature to even things that will sense a raised heart rate, a raised pulse, and trigger things like headspace to give you that opportunity to reflect, calm down. I think there's an awful lot that clothing has to offer that goes above and beyond where we are right now. And yeah, we're looking forward to developing some of that. Some of it's already in the pipeline. And yeah, it's a fascinating space that thrilled to be involved with, really.
Wow. Okay. Mood boosting clothing. No, that's with technology fuel behind it as well. That's going to be something to see for sure. Really interesting to see what happens over the next few years. So you've got to keep us posted on that one. We could go on, but I'm going to say thank you very much both for joining me and for giving us this tour of something we're not talking enough about, I now realize, particularly in the new world of work and life that we're in, and often in front of a camera as well as the face-to-face, we can do a lot more. I am absolutely sure that there are many who are listening or watching this will want to get in touch and deepen this conversation with you both. So Suzie, just to come to you first, and we will put this on the screen for those of you watching as well. But for those people that want to get in touch with you and find out more, what are the links and how do they get hold of you?
So my website is style-heaven.co.uk. On the homepage there, if somebody wants, I do a complimentary style session, and also you can call me, and yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from you.
Thank you very much indeed, and Andy, the same for you. Around you personally, around an innovator in this space from a clothing perspective, and people wanting to find out about that, and of course your DressCode Shirts.
Sure. If you want to find out more about what I'm doing, LinkedIn is probably the place. So just look for Andy Boothman on LinkedIn. And in terms of dress code, the website is www.dresscodeshirts.co.uk. You'll also find us on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, just feel free to reach out and ask away. Be happy to talk about this further.
Well, first of all, thank you to you, Suzie, for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a really interesting conversation. I'd love to continue, but we've run out of time.
It has. And Andy, the same for you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you both. I've really enjoyed it.
And of course, the first thing I'm now going to do as soon as I've shut this down is run upstairs, fling open my wardrobe doors and cry. So on that bombshell, as they say, thank you so much. It's been a great chat, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the comments come out of this, and I hope a lot of people get in touch. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care, Jeremy.
Thank you for joining our Guest Practices videocast. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel through the link below, or check out our website to access more in our current series of expert interviews.